Good morning. Welcome to Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation. It's a busy day in the life of MVUU with our weekly service and a concert by Jim Scott here this afternoon at 4 p.m. And there's also an event at the Loft Cinema this afternoon at 2, and there's Cyclovia and lots of things happening. We are glad that you are here now, and whether you are first-time visitors, still dipping your toe in the water of MVUU, new or about to become members, or long haulers. Welcome to those of you who are present here today, and also to those who are joining us remotely. How wonderful it is to be able to offer this service and the opportunity to connect in 2 different formats. Let us take a moment to welcome each other by turning to the wave to the camera and looking at the screens to see the folks who are waving at us. Bill and Jeannie, I see out there. I'm Deborah Roberts, and I'm a lead pastoral associate here at MVUU. Today, we are in for a treat as we welcome the Reverend Bethany Russell Lowe, pastor of the UU Congregation of Tucson down on 22nd Street. It's Pulpit Palooza. I'm sure many of you remember Reverend Bethany from our Baja 4 services during the pandemic. I certainly remember her singing with her husband, Brian, her inspirational words, and especially her camaraderie with the other Baja 4 ministers. Reverend Bethany was raised Unitarian Universalist in the suburbs of Boston, yay, Massachusetts. She moved to the desert in 2018 to begin a settled ministry at the UU Church of Tucson. She lives on the east side of Tucson with her husband, toddler, who's in the RE room, dog, 2 cats, and 3 chickens. I'm wondering if you got those chickens from Reverend Sam. No, okay, we remember Reverend Sam's chickens. Before we go any further, I would like to take a moment to thank the many people who make this service possible. Our AV crew, and for the first time in many, many months, Todd is taking some time off, and the head honcho back there is Alex Stuckey. He's joined Thanks for taking on this challenge, Alex. He's joined by Lee McNeely, of course, and Vincensky is back there, and Ann Tatum and Bob Seifried on camera. And a big shout out to the greeters who manage the front end so efficiently and work hard to make everyone feel welcome. And let's not forget the hospitality crew, a one-man crew today, I believe. We'll enjoy the fruits of his labor when we gather for coffee hour on the patio after the service. Our music director, Chris Tackett, will be at the piano today, and there are two special musical performances, one by a new iteration of the Euphorics, that's U for the letter X, that's how it's spelled, and we are euphoric to be able to perform for you today, aren't we? And we'll also enjoy a specialist song from soloist Julie Olson. Fellow PA Robin Bauzel will also be making a remote appearance. Is the anticipation building? Okay. When I'm up here, I always try to acknowledge someone whose efforts are extremely important, but often not recognized. This week, and I know he's here, it's Warren Ellis, our #1 buildings and grounds guy. Whenever I need something, Warren always comes through. That's why there's a new hanging rack back off Buddy's room. You will soon be enjoying less wrinkled altar cloths because we can hang them there. And have you noticed the new stairs going out in front from the upper parking level down to the main level? That's Warren too. Thank you, Warren, for all that you do. Our theme for the month of April is paradox. Today, we will be exploring a paradox that is inherent in our religion. We preach universal love and a belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all people. Yet it would be hard to deny that there have been historically, and continue to be contemporaneously, people who have perpetrated evil without respect for human life. How do these people fit into our belief system? And how can we embrace them with our love? I look forward to hearing Reverend Bethany's reflection on this topic.
We are here to practice and sustain our living tradition, to light a chalice claiming for justice the heat and power of fire. In our free faith, we are here seeking freedom from despair, the freedom to be loved as ourselves, and the freedom to grow beyond imagination. We are here gathered in the name of all that we find holy. Let us give thanks for the gift of gathering here.
Turn back, O man, forswear thy foolish ways. Earth now is old and none may count her days. Da 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 da. Yet thou, her child, whose head is crowned with flames, wilt thou not hear thine unadulterated flame? Turn back, O man. Turn back, O man. Turn back, O man. Forswear thy foolish ways. Earth might be fair, and all men glad and wise, watch their tragic empires rise. Da 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 da, built while they dream, and in their dreaming weep. Would thou not wake from out their haunted sleep? Turn back, O man, turn back, O man, turn back, O man, forswear thy foolish ways. Earth might be fair and all her people one. Not till that hour shall God's whole will be done. Now, even now, once more from earth to sky, peals forth in joy man's old undaunted cry. Earth shall be fair, and all her people one. Turn back, O man, forswear thy foolish ways. Old now is earth, and none may count her days. Da 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 da. Yet thou, her child, whose head is crowned with flames, still wilt not hear thine inner God proclaim. Turn back, O man, turn back, O man, turn back, O man, forswear thy foolish ways.
When Reverend Bethany first proposed the topic for today's service, I had just returned from a 3-week trip to Argentina and Chile. Although the focus of my trip was on experiencing the beauty of the Patagonian landscape, we were also introduced to and heard firsthand about some controversial topics. That's what the tour company calls them. In Buenos Aires, we met with a man whose uncle was one of the desaparecidos, the disappeared, one of the many people who disappeared during the so-called Dirty War in Argentina, which took place from 1974 to 1983, under the aegis of the military junta that ruled the country during those years. This man's life mission is to document what happened during this period of terror, not only to honor his uncle, but also to reveal the extent of what happened during those years. It's still really a hush-hush topic. It is estimated that between 9,000 and 30,000 people simply disappeared and were never heard from again. This was an attempt to silence social and political opposition, and it was students, trade unionists, writers, journalists, artists, and any left-leaning or communist sympathizers who were the targets. Some were imprisoned, while others simply disappeared. The children of women who gave birth while in prison were taken away and given to families who supported the junta. The abuelas, whom you see here, or the grandmothers of these children, organized and fought tenaciously and courageously to locate these children and reunite them with their biological families. Other people were too afraid to demonstrate and agitate because they knew that they could too become desaparecido. But the grandmothers felt that the junta would not touch them, and so they were the group who demonstrated against the junta in an attempt to locate these families. Las abuelas were a constant presence on the Plaza de Mayo, May Square in Buenos Aires, and were identified by the white kerchiefs which they wore and which are now painted on the pavement there to commemorate their efforts. These grandmothers have been successful in reuniting some 120 children with their families, and their efforts continue to this day. Another one of the controversial topics we explored was the Falklands War, which of course is not called the Falklands War there, but rather the Malvinas. Great Britain had long controlled these islands, which lie some 300 miles off the coast of Argentina. In 1982, the junta attempted to invade and gain control of these islands, which really have no commercial or strategic value. Many theorize that the invasion was a pretense to divert attention from the atrocities of the dirty war, in that a military victory would reflect positively on the junta. The war lasted 2 months and 12 days and resulted in an embarrassing defeat for the junta. In Ushuaia, the southernmost city in South America, we met with a survivor of that war. He, like most other soldiers, was only 18 when he was deployed to the Malvinas. They were untrained in warfare and ill-equipped and provisioned. It was very cold, and they had no warm clothing. They did not have sufficient food or reliable shelter, and their antiquated weapons were no match for the modern equipment and tactics of the British. Communication among the troops on different islands was practically non-existent, so that they were often ambushed and overrun. Miguel, the gentleman who told us about his experience, is 60 years old today. 41 years after this brief but disastrous war, he broke down in tears several times during his presentation. He still suffers from severe PTSD, which has shaped his entire adult life. He and others have made it their life's mission to obtain appropriate medical and psychological care, as well as pensions from the Argentine government. They meet frequently to share their experiences and support each other through the challenges of everyday life. So, what does this little lesson in Argentine history have to do with today's topic? Well, that brings me back to the theme for this month, paradox. To illustrate, let me quote a few lines from the poem, which you will hear in its entirety in just a little bit. Quote, "I wonder how to love a would-be, or in this case, actual, dictator with hands that drip trauma and blood." Or, "I wonder how to love men with guns." I remember a UU church I attended in Massachusetts where every service opened with the line, "Love is the doctrine of this church." When we consider the atrocities I just mentioned and the thousands of other examples throughout our history and those that we hear about in the news every day, how do we reconcile that with our UU principles? Principle number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Principle number 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Principle number 6, the goal of world community with love, with peace, love, and justice for all. How do we extend unconditional love and universal salvation to these perpetrators of violence, destroyers of families, and disruptors of society? To me, that's the paradox. And we, for the most part, are not direct victims of these crimes against humanity. We are merely consumers of history and onlookers to the horrors of contemporary injustices, which greatly trouble me. I am looking forward to hearing Reverend Bethany's thoughts on this topic.
Body and spirit, sing hymn 95 with us.
Harmony would be very welcome. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Y'all sing well. It's come to that time in our service, which is a time of prayer, meditation, contemplation, whatever word works for you, whatever way works for you. And this prayer is a litany, which means very simply that I have a bunch of words and then you have one line, which you'll say back to me over and over. No one is outside the circle of love. So think about that line. Think about what posture your body needs to be in to say that line, to receive that line. Maybe you stand up, maybe your arms are wide, maybe you are just grounded. Your hands might be in a place in your body that needs to know, to hear, to feel that line. Having gotten into that posture, let's practice. No one is outside the circle of love. And as I read these words, I'm thinking of those disappeared in Debbie's reflection. All the children throughout time have been removed from their families again and again in different cultures and various places. I'm thinking of all those impacted by oppression and violence, whether through personal experience or ancestral lineage. These words of litany come from Reverend Erica Hewitt, inspired by our UUA president, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray. We know that hurt moves through the world, perpetuated by action, inaction, indifference. Our values call us to live in the reality of the heartbreak of our world, remembering that no one is outside the circle of love. We who are Unitarian Universalists not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of every being, despite apparent brokenness. No one is outside the circle of love. We know that things break or break down. Promises, friendship, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes. Life is messy. No one is outside the circle of love. So with compassion as our guide, we seek the well-being of all people. We seek to dismantle systems of oppression that undermine our collective humanity. We believe that we are here to guide one another towards love. No one is outside the circle of love. No matter how fractured we are or once were, we can make whole people of ourselves. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love in which we live. No one is outside the circle of love. Amen. And we make that so.
So we're the Euphorics, and we've been in hibernation for a while. Two of our original members, Pam Donnelly and Andrew, Reverend Sam's husband, have left us. So we're back together with Roy joining us on bass and Charlie on percussion, and this is Dan, and here we go.
You who are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's hell did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they picked, the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, so just look at them and sigh, and know they love you. And you of tender years can't know the fears that your elders grew by, and so please help them with your youth. They seek the truth before they can die. Teach your parents well, their children's hell will slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they picked, the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, just look at them and sigh, and know they love you.
Associate here at MVUU, and I'm going to share a piece with you today called Scraps. This piece is written by the Reverend Sean Parker Dennison. Now, before I begin, I want to warn you that this piece is distressing. It should be distressing. It's important that you are distressed. And I don't say that lightly. I don't want to make you feel unduly uncomfortable, and I don't want to stir up emotions that aren't necessary. But I invite you, no, I beg of you, listen to these words with as open of a heart and mind as possible, and then no matter what you feel, please, please bring those feelings to the table and let's talk about them as a community of love and support. When I first read this piece, I felt seen. Whatever you feel, it's valid. It doesn't have to be what I feel. It could be the exact opposite of what I feel. It's okay. Let's talk about it. That's what matters. Thank you in advance for listening to this piece. I believe in compassion, in universalism, in love that does not let us go and does not let us off the hook. I wonder how to love a would-be dictator with hands that drip trauma and blood, who puts children in cold cages alone. I wonder how to love men with guns and baseball bats, ropes, dragging the life out of women who created themselves, beauty dreamed and dared into being. I wonder how long I am meant to listen quietly while people lecture on compassion for the privileged, the rapist, the racist, the warmonger who profits on flesh and fear and the bodies of the poor. I wonder why victims are told to settle down, wait their turn. And if there is a little left after we forgive the perpetrator's cruelty, which we have explained is to be expected, overlooked, and excused. If after we comfort them and each other, if then there is anything left, we might offer you some scrap of caring, gone rigid, cold, stale. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you for context. Robin asked if she could read that, and I'm glad I said yes, because that's the power of that poem. Last fall, someone I respected and had great love for, have in many ways great love for, did something that was totally unlovable. As a Universalist, I try to align my thoughts and my actions with the core belief that all beings, all people are worthy of love. But last fall, I was challenged to direct love towards this person who had done something totally unforgivable. You don't need to know all the details to understand the place I was in. You don't need to know all the details because I know that you've had a time in your life like this, when you've learned a new side of someone you loved, someone you perhaps trusted, and that new side was far from pretty, maybe even horrible, possibly evil. And this person you once loved, you now felt differently towards. That new feeling you have for them might have eclipsed the love you once had, or maybe you feel like you're holding both the love and the not love at all at once. It's times like this that we ask ourselves, how do I love someone who has done unlovable things? Our first principle, which you've already heard a number of times this morning, says that all are inherently worthy of love and dignity. Inherent as in inborn and unremovable. The call of modern universalism is very clear. Love all, period. And all means all, everyone, every person, every being, everything. How then can we reconcile this principle with the fact that it can be hard or even impossible or unacceptable to extend our love to people, some people? This is a challenge for all of us, whether we've experienced that deep betrayal or maybe a surface level betrayal. In the reading you just heard, trans-Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Sean Parker Dennison wrote about this challenge. They address what is often one of the first questions that arises when we affirm our first principle, or the call of universalism to love all. Almost inevitably, the first question when we affirm that is, what about Hitler? What about murderers? What about the person who abused me? What about a recent president or any of the pseudo or actual fascists and white nationalists who used their power to enable him? The list could go on. Reverend Dennison's reading reorients this line of questioning. We could spend our time cultivating and growing and discussing how to love these people, but what would that leave us left with for the people who were directly impacted by their hatred and their violence, their evil? Scraps is Reverend Dennison's answer. Scraps of love, scraps of compassion, scraps of dignity. I do not hear at all Reverend Dennison saying that people who do bad things are unworthy of love. They are a universalist at heart, I know. But I do hear them advising us to direct our love away from these hateable people and towards the margins, towards the hurting, towards those who have been convinced that they are unworthy of love, those who have been convinced that they are less than worthy of dignity. They are the ones who are desperately in need of our love. It's a helpful reminder because I was raised Unitarian Universalist, and so I know our hearts. And I know that our hearts reside with those who are most impacted by hate and violence. And I also know that we Unitarian Universalists like a challenge. Sometimes we think that the challenge of universalism is to love those who are unlovable. But actually, I think that the challenge of universalism is to prioritize loving those who have been denied love that they are inherently worthy of. Love the margins. Love the harmed. Love those whose dignity has been questioned. Love the ones who have been given reason to believe they might be unlovable. Why? Activist and writer Adrienne Marie Brown once wrote, "What we pay attention to grows. What we pay attention to grows." Where do we want love to grow? In the admittedly false dichotomy between those who have done something that is unlovable and those who have been denied full love, the choice is not hard at all. We want love to grow with those who have been denied love. Sometimes this person is ourselves. In 2017, pop artist Kesha released a song titled "Praying." Kesha was just emerging from a legal battle to regain power over the music she had written from her former producer, who was also her abuser. Although the abuser is not named in her song, it is clear that the song speaks to her experience of surviving his abuses of power. She sings these words. I won't sing them, but you should go listen to it today. Well, you almost had me fooled. Told me that I was nothing without you. Oh, but after everything you've done, I can thank you for how strong I have become. I hope you're somewhere praying. I hope your soul is changing. I hope you find your peace falling on your knees, praying. What I love about this song, why it's on my post-therapy playlist, why it resonates for me, is that the lyrics focus on empowering the survivor of the abuse. They express some hope of transformation and restoration of the person with abusive behaviors, but they don't try to fix that person. They simply express the hope that that person is taking the responsibility for praying, changing, and finding peace. Sometimes this hope for someone else, but not any activity towards getting them there. Sometimes this is the furthest we can extend our love. Sometimes just wishing for the transformation of those who have caused harm, especially when they have caused us direct harm, is as far as our love can go. And that is okay. It is okay to reserve a majority of love for your own healing. It is okay to focus on loving the ones who have been denied their own worth and dignity. It is okay to admit that you can't love someone for now or maybe forever. It is okay to not want to forgive another person. It is okay. How can we love people who have done unlovable things? What if instead of addressing this challenge, which would require a PhD in loving, and we're just still here in grade school, what if instead of addressing that challenge, we take on the challenge of focusing on the places where our direct love, our direct affirmation can make all the difference? Loving the marginalized, loving the harm, loving the disaffected. This is how our love will multiply. This is how our love will grow. This is how love will win. In the coming weeks, you might find ways to send your love to the margins. May you resist the urge to figure out how to unlove the unlovable. Remember that Reverend Dennison's reading calls us to a universalism, which is, to them, a love which does not let us go or let us off the hook. May you remember that you are held by a love that will never, ever let you go. And because this is a capital T truth, part of your responsibility is to reflect that love back to all you meet. Find the people and the places that have been told they are unworthy of love and send your love there. Affirm your inherent worthiness there. Spend your time there. If we can encourage love to grow there, we can grow the amount of love in the world, and we can reflect the loving embrace of creation back to itself. May we make it so. Blessed be, and amen. And will you continue with me in a spirit of singing, rising, and body or spirit, and singing hymn number 323, Break Not the Circle.
Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle, make it wider still, till it includes embracing all the living. Come wonder at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but with that human bonds remain unbroken. Join then the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves, stand on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation.
Our words for closing is a poem called Dear Human by Courtney Walsh. Dear human, you didn't come here to master unconditional love. That is where you came from and where you'll return. You came here to learn personal love, universal love, messy love, sweaty love, crazy love, broken love, whole love. Infused with dignity, lived through the grace of stumbling, demonstrated through the beauty of messing up often. You didn't come here to be perfect. You already are. You came here to be gorgeously human, flawed, and fabulous, and then to rise into remembering. But unconditional love? Stop telling that story. Love, in truth, doesn't need any other adjectives. It requires no modifiers. It doesn't require the condition of perfection. It only asks that you show up and do your best, that you stay present and feel fully, that you shine and fly and laugh and cry and hurt and heal and fall and get back up and play and work and live and die as you. It's enough. It's plenty. Go in peace, friends. It was lovely to be here with you this morning.
Welcome, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Stacy.
Together, we would like to personally invite you to join us on the beautiful Santa Cruz River for a river cleanup. We will be hosting a river cleanup happening on Saturday, April 29th, 9 a.m. to noon. Starting around 10 a.m., we'll be learning all about the river through our partnership with the Sonoran Institute. Then we will be working hard to gather all of the trash along the riverbed and the surrounding areas, making Tucson just a little bit a better place for everyone to enjoy. And finally, the best part, lunchtime.
And now for some gritty details. All ages are welcome to attend this event. We will be meeting at a nearby park with a play structure and ramada for some shade. Each person should bring their own lunch, dress appropriately for the weather, work gloves, and trash grabbers if you have them, and a chair if you feel that you need one. We do need you to register for this event, so please see our newsletter to RSVP, parking information, and any additional instructions. This is a great way to get involved, make a difference, and enjoy the outdoors. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you there.
As we prepare to end our service today and brace ourselves for the challenges of the week ahead, we release our chalice flame with the words by Reverend Maureen Killoran. This is the message of our faith: to act with passion in the face of injustice, to love with courage in the midst of life's pain. This is the meaning of our chalice flame. May it empower our hearts until we are together again.
I feel like I've been shouting it for weeks, but this afternoon at 4 o'clock, right in this very space, right on this very stage, we are thrilled and excited to be hosting Jim Scott. Now, you know him, even if you don't know him. He is the singer, songwriter, guitar player, piano player, all kinds of wonderful stuff. He played for many years with the Paul Winter Consort. He did a whole lot of stuff. He's on many of their records. He's participated in their big solstice celebration from the Cathedral of St. John the Divine that they do every year. He's helped with the big Mass for the Earth that they've done at the United Nations. All kinds of wonderful stuff. In addition to, did I mention, several of his songs are in our hymnals and in our books. The opening song I played today, is one of his. There is More Love. That's not one of his. Let This Be a House of Love, that I played for the prelude today, is one of his. And the piece I'm going to play for a postlude today is one of his. And y'all have a part to do in it too. This is why I was using the stand. Now, this is simple. It's a simple gospel 3. So you need to put down 1 and 2 and 3. So for 1, we're going to pat our foot. So 1, and then we're either going to snap for 2 and 3, or you can pat your foot. I know I'm having trouble occasionally with this thumb that doesn't want to snap some days, so you can pat your thigh, whatever works for you. So 1, 2, 3, don't speed up. It's a slow song. There we go. Here. I look forward to seeing you all right here. Sadly, because of restrictions, we can't stream it, but we will be here this afternoon, 4 o'clock, right here. Thank you.